All right, today we're crawling into one of the most claustrophobic and, let's be honest, puzzling sci-fi horror films out there, Matteo Terri's Meander. This is a film that traps you, it terrifies you, and it leaves you with one massive question. What on earth is actually going on?
I mean, the whole premise is just pure nightmare fuel. Imagine this. You wake up, you're in this tiny metal box, and you have no idea how you got there. There's no explanation. It's just you, this skin-tight suit, and a lethal countdown timer strapped to your wrist. And every single time that clock hits zero, something absolutely horrific happens. It is a relentless, high-stakes game where one wrong move means a truly gruesome death.
So on the surface, this just looks like a terrifying survival film, right? Kind of like a cinematic escape room from hell. But what if it's more than that? What if the maze and the traps and that monster that's hunting her, what if they aren't just random horrors? What if they're all pieces of a meticulously constructed puzzle? A puzzle built by her very own mind. And that's the question we're going to try and solve today. Okay, so to even begin to solve this thing, we've got to understand how it's built. We need to look at all the pieces. So let's map out the bizarre and terrifying architecture of this cinematic nightmare. So what are we really dealing with here? You've got these endless, suffocating tunnels, you have the constant pressure of that countdown timer, which leads to traps like acid, fire, crushing walls, the whole shebang. Then there's this grotesque monster named Adam who just keeps coming back, again and again in these mutated forms. And here's the wildest part, Lisa dies. Like she actually dies. And then she's revived, healed by some bizarre, almost alien machine. You see? None of this follows the rules of our reality. It's following a totally different playbook. And that playbook, that is the key to solving this whole puzzle. So we're going to shift gears now. We're moving from what is happening in the film to what it all means. This is where we find the blueprint to the maze. Okay, so here's the central theory. Meander isn't just dreamlike. The entire movie can be seen as a literal dream projection. The whole thing is a story being built by a sleeping mind. And the raw material, the engine that's driving this entire horrifying ride, it's pure, uncut fear.
Now, to really get this, we need to understand a really cool concept: fear-strain packages. Think of it like this. Your brain takes all the abstract anxieties from your daily life, stress, worry, old trauma, and it compresses them, zips them up into these little packages. But in a dream, those packages get unzipped, and they don't come out as just feelings. Nope, they're transformed into physical, life-or-death challenges. The dream isn't just showing you fear, it's making you live it.
So here's where it gets really interesting. If the traps in the movie are these fear-strain packages, then we should be able to trace them back to their source, right? So let's do it. Let's try to map the horrors of the dream directly onto plausible, real-life anxieties.
And you know what? The translation from waking life into the dream world can be shockingly direct. I mean, think about the pressure of a huge work deadline. We all know that feeling, right? That clock ticking, the panic rising. Well, the dream takes that abstract anxiety and makes it brutally concrete. Suddenly, the consequence for failure isn't a bad performance review, it's a room filling up with acid. The emotional stakes have become physical ones.
And we see this exact same logic with the environment. I mean, so many of us can feel trapped in our daily lives, maybe in a tiny apartment or a dead-end job or a difficult relationship. It's a kind of psychological claustrophobia. Well, the dream just takes that feeling and builds a physical, literal version of it. Lisa isn't just feeling trapped, she is trapped, forced to crawl through an endless, suffocating metallic maze.
But this next connection might be the most intense of all: how the dream handles past trauma. That monster, Adam, he's not just some random villain. He is the walking, crawling embodiment of unresolved fear, kind of like the memory of a violent partner. And the fact that he keeps reappearing but in different mutated forms, that is exactly how trauma works. It doesn't just repeat itself, it resurfaces in new, distorted disguises, always catching you off guard. So, we've seen the connections, and they make a weird kind of sense. But how does the mind actually do this? What's the logic that transforms daily stress into a literal life-or-death struggle? Let's take a look at the mechanics of what we can call dream state amplification.
This simple chart really says it all. Dreams don't just mirror our emotions, they turn the volume all the way up to 11. A waking anxiety that might feel like a 9 out of 10 on the intensity scale, say that lingering fear from past trauma, well, in the dream, it gets cranked to a full 10 out of 10. It becomes absolute, life-threatening terror. The dream's job is to take all that emotional residue from our lives and make it as dramatic as it possibly can.
And believe it or not, the mind even seems to follow a simple set of rules for this. If the intensity jump between that waking feeling and the dream terror is pretty small, let's say by 1 or 2 points, it's likely a direct link. The dream is processing a specific current event. But when that jump gets bigger, that's when the dream starts to get creative. It starts merging a more recent, milder stress with the powerful emotional energy of a much older, deeper trauma, and it creates this brand new hybrid nightmare.
Okay, so let's zoom out for a minute. We've deconstructed this whole film as a dream. But why does any of this matter to you? Well, because this isn't just about a character in a movie. This is about the fundamental way our own brains process fear every single night.
Because here's the ultimate takeaway. The absolute chaos of a nightmare isn't just random static. It's a story. It's your brain taking all the scattered emotional data from your life and trying to organize it into a narrative. Now, it might be a terrifying narrative, for sure, but it has a purpose: to confront, to process, and to ultimately try and solve the very things that you fear the most.
So the next time you wake up from an unsettling dream, don't just dismiss it. Think of it like Lisa in the maze. There are clues hidden in the chaos. There's a logic to the fear. And all of this leaves us with one final, pretty fascinating question to think about. What puzzle is your mind trying to solve tonight?